Now actually we are also dealing with many harder topics, like how do you take a copy of a variable? Like if it is an integer, it's pretty easy. Like if a is 35, then you want to take a copy of it, then you just say b is equal to a. That would be enough. But when we are talking about objects, the problem is a little bit harder. Because let's say I have created a student object, okay? A student class that a student might have a name, ID, grade, whatever, all the other data we might need. And then I want to just take a copy of it, which means that I will create another instance that have exactly the same values of that one. But it should be two separate objects. How can I do it? So how can I make a copy of another object? This is our main question. Why is that a big issue? Well, let's do it with an example actually. So as I said, let's create an student object. So I'll just go to my Java, yes, and I'll just create here a student object. So I'll just go to student. So the name is student. Then it will be a simple object. So I'll just say they have a student has a name. A student has an ID. It can be long, integer, string, whatever you want to put, and maybe GPA. Yeah. So let's say for as an GPA and so on. So of course we can add more, but the thing is we can just keep it here, and then yeah, we can add the setters and the getters. So for that one, I'll use the generated ones. So basically, I will generate constructors by using all these three options. So public student, in which we have this name. We didn't see this yet, so I'll just delete it. No worries. It won't change anything. Name, ID, and GPA, and then we have this. Fine. And we can create the getters and the setters, but for now it is not important. Okay, just for simplicity, let's make them public and so on. Now what I want to do is, now I'll go to my main class again, and I want to create student objects. Like the first one is, let's say, student S1 is equal to new student, and then name is name, ID is ID, GPA is 4, let's say, okay? Then I want to take a copy of this student, okay? So how can I do it? Well, let's say I want to create this S2 student, a clone of this S1, okay? So it will be, if I say this, okay, the S2 is equal to S1. So now I have S1 and an S2. Then I can say, can I access the name of S1 here? So if I say S1, S2.name, okay. So let's just print and see if what it is. Yes, it is name. So now I have the same value for name and ID and GPA. So it should be same for all. I will not go in detail, but the thing is, are they really clones, different objects? So this is the reason. The main question. Like, what I mean is, if I change the ID of S1, yeah, oops, sorry, ID to new ID, okay, I just changed the value of ID from S1. Then I would like to check what happened to S2. So I would like to, let me zoom out. This is a little bit too much. Yeah. I would like to print the ID through S2. So let's see what happened. So again, now I'll just run my code. Now I name, but for the ID, it printed new ID. So I changed S1, it affected S2. So what about the other? Like if I change S2, like I would like to change the GPA of S2 to 3.5, then I would like to print the GPA of S1. So I would like to print the GPA of S1. When I do it, let's also run it. it's 3.5. So I changed GPA of S2, but S1, GPA of S1 is also affected. So they are not different objects actually. What is happening is, in the memory, I have this, okay, this is not working. Your thumb. Yeah. In the memory, I have this S1 object. And when I set student S2, and this is the memory, I keep here name, I keep here ID and GPA. When I set S2 is equal to S1, it is just referencing that location in the memory. So whenever I change anything here, S1 is affected. S2 is also affected. So they are not completely independent objects. They are just referring to the same location in the memory. So actually, I didn't take a clone of it. S2 is just referencing to the same location. This is not what I want. I want two separate objects. Okay, initially they will have the same values, but I want them to be an independent object. If I change one of it, the other should not be affected. This is what I want. So for that thing, what I can do is, if I do this in my code, if I say student S3 is equal to new student, whenever you see that, now you can say, okay, now we are creating a new object. This is a new memory location. I know that now this will be a different independent object. I know that. I just need to put the values from S1. So this is one way to do it. S1. So the name should be same with the S1, and the ID should be also same with the S1, and also the GPA should be also same with the S1. When I do it, now I actually copied it, and they are now different objects. How do I know it? Well, I can print S3.name. First, it should be S1, which is S1's name is basically name. I will make it S1, so maybe it will be easier to catch it. Then I will change the S1's name to new S1 name. Then I will print this one again. Okay. So let's see what will be the output. What is the expected output here? S1 and then S1. 2 times S1. Yes, S1 and S1. So S3 is not affected by what I did with the S1. But if I try to print S2, which should be affected by 1, so the last one is new S1. So S2 is affected, but S3 is not. So I took a copy of S1, student S1, for this S3 object. So this is, when we are talking about cloning, this is what we mean. We want them different objects. This is one way to do it. We can, through a constructor, we just give the values of it. But sometimes it is, from a program perspective, it's not very nice. Why? Because I just want to do a copy operation, but in my code, I'm writing all these things. This doesn't look nice. Because this is I want to put this cloning or functionality not in the main method. I want to put it in the student class, so that the student class will be like a clonable object. So it allows it to be cloned. Okay. So for that one, what I can do is I will here define a clone method, which will return also student. So this is the student class. The name is student, and then it will take a student. So here are some different ways we can implement it. By the way, let's just go with this example. In the example given in the slide, it is quite different, but that is fine. Actually, this didn't put any return value, so this is not super correct. Anyway, so I want to clone the student object. How I can do it? It should return me a new student object, okay? in which the name should be name, or if you want to make it even more explicit, I don't need to say it this way, but just to make it more explicit, this.id and this.gpa. So basically what I'm doing is in this clone object, whenever I call the clone, I will create this student object with this class's values, and then it will return it. So now how can I clone that object in my code? When I go back to my main class, let's create one more student object. Let's make it one more clone, S4. It will be basically S1.clone. Then that will do the same thing. Now, why is this better than that? Well, because in programming, it is important to put the related task in one place. If I don't define a clone object, then everyone will try to write its own by using this constructor. Sometimes they can do mistakes. Sometimes they can put some invalid values, and so on and so on. Many things happen. But I want them to use this object to clone. If you want to clone it, okay, go with this one. So it's easier to read. And if I want to put some more changes here, maybe, like what can it be? Well, you might say that, okay, I want to clone it, but ID should be always unique, okay, for instance. Then maybe you might want to generate here a unique ID first and then use that one. So you might, whatever requirements of your application is, you can do it here instead of leaving it to anyone who wants to clone your object. So it's always good to provide this clone object, clone function here. Of course, you can, as I said, you can do many other things. Like you can put the student object, take the student object as a parameter, and then change its value and then return it. That's also another way. I think this is what I showed here with the student object that returns student class. It creates a new student with the required parameters, and then it returns that. And for that one, what is this commented out one? What is this? This name and so on and so on. What is this?
The constructor.
The construct. Yes. So when we are, I could write it in this way, like return it this way, or I'll just comment this out. Excuse me?
This inside the brackets.
Of course, this will not be in that way. Yeah, this, anyway, this, when we come to inheritance function, we will talk about this actually. No need to cover it yet. So let's skip it for now. This, when we talk about the inheritance, we will see what is this function and the super function. So for now, anyway, this is too early to be covered as of now. All right, this clone function is one of the core functions that you might want to implement when you are defining a class. This is one part. And the other one is equals method. Why is that? Well, again, normally comparing two values are very easy. Like, is 35 equal to 40? Yes or no? It's so easy. You don't need to implement anything. You just use this double equal sign. But for the string class, as I said, if you remember, like two strings, are they equal or not? If I use double equal sign, it would compare their memory addresses. So that wouldn't. The string class has its own already implemented equals method. But when I'm defining an object like student object, then the question is, okay, when will you decide that two students are same? So how can they have the same attributes? This might be, yes, one part. Or maybe you can even say, like, so I need to define when I will consider two student objects are same. I can say, I can only check maybe IDs, like, because it should be a unique number. If IDs are same, they are same students. So for that one, I can say equals method, which will take a student object, And then I want to compare this, but I want you to focus on this part. I define it in a student object. So this is a function for the student class. Within the student Java file, I defined it. So I want to compare whether this given student object is equal to this class that calls this function. That's this class. So when can I say that two students are same? Well, I can basically say if their IDs are same. So since it is also a since it's also a string, I need to use equals function. This equals is not this one. It is the equals of the string class. And then I can return if they are same. I can say, okay, they are same. Otherwise, I can just return false. So then, how can I use it? If I go to main class, now I have these student classes, and did I change any ID of it? Yeah, S1 ID is here. Let's create another one. Student S4 is new student, and then some name. And what was the ID? It's just ID. Okay.
You can say ID 4.
Yeah, reasonable. For instance, then I would like to print actually the ID of the others, like what is the ID of S3 of ID. And then basically I will say, okay, if S4 dot equals, so this is how I call it, S3, then you can say, okay, whatever you want. Like you might say they are same or so, or then else they are not same. So let's run the code again. So we should get they are not same because one of them is ID 4 and the other one is not. But if I also make it to ID, which is new ID, by the way, so its ID is, seems like, okay, I want to change it. These ID names are not good. I want to make it S3 or ID3. So this is also ID3. So if their IDs are same, then it should say now they are same. Now this is, I would like to mention one thing. This is one of my very famous questions in the midterm. When we see the inheritance, I actually ask it this equals method. And there are some common mistakes that students usually do with this function. So in an equals method, like this, some students say, okay, I want you to define an equals method that returns a Boolean value, like whether it is true or false, and it should check the IDs and so. First, if you are defining a function like this, it's more challenging to define a function for a main method. Why? Because you are defining a function, then allowing all other people to use it. Okay? So you have to cover when things might fail. Like when you look at this code, when this code might fail in any scenario, like in a perfect scenario, like we did, it worked. But in some cases, it might not work. Do you have any idea what it might be?
Providing non-student objects?
Yes. What if our student object is null? Like what I mean is, if we go to the main method again, and then if I create maybe a student object, again, S5 is equal to null, okay, then I want to, again, check whether S4 equals S5, okay? Now what will happen is, my program crashed. Why did this happen? The reason is, I put it in a null object. Okay, it is my mistake. Okay, I shouldn't do it. Yes, correct. But when you are running a project, there will be so many developers. Not everyone will be very careful. There might be some people who are not that much careful with you, like you. And then you might say, okay, I implemented this, and no one should call them with a null object. Please don't do it, okay? But still, some people might do it. Then you cannot blame just the others. Okay, this is his problem. But then your boss might come and say, yeah, this is his problem, but we lost, I don't know, a couple of millions of dollars, so what should we do? So you cannot say that, okay, you cannot just blame one person. As a software developer, yeah, you have to also fill those gaps. So what can I do is, like if S is null, okay, then return false. It cannot, there's no way it can be, they are same objects if it is null. So like when you, let's say a car manufacturer, they build a very nice car, but they didn't put the safety concerns like maybe, I don't know, the belt and so on. Then there's an accident, some person died, and then they cannot blame the company, say that, okay, this was their mistake. They should, no, it's also your mistake that you didn't put those belts, security belts, so that they could use it. Okay, they overspeed, they were careless, they were carelessly driving the car. Okay, it is their own mistake, but it is also your mistake. You should have put this these belts and or other things. So again, for this part also, when we are implementing those kind of functions, you should also think about it. Okay, how this can be used in a wrong way. What if it is null? What if it is that? What if it is that? So are you covering all these cases? And also, as another common mistake for these questions, when I ask it in the midterm, so students usually say it, they implement things like this. Sorry. Public Boolean equals, which takes two student objects, S1 and S2, and then they compare, okay, if S1 dot ID dot equals S2 dot ID, then return true, else return false. It's also a very common mistake. Like this is not object-oriented programming, because when we are doing object-oriented programming, we mean that I want to design an object. I can copy paste this object, this function, okay, and put it in the main method, and it will still work. I can still use it. Okay, this is not a student object specific object class. This function basically takes two student objects and compares it. This is not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to define a function for the student class, not any class that should take this on the one and compare with that with that student object that is invoking that method. So no, you shouldn't do that also. This is again another mistake. And also sometimes students, as I said, enrich the problem. I said, okay, whether they are same or not, this is just what I'm asking. But then they say, okay, no. I will not check only. I will also print some fancy messages for the user, like they are same. And for the other one, I don't want to just return some value. I would like to also print some messages. Okay, so this is why they also put some messages, like they're not same. The thing is, the question is not asking this to do it. It's if you really, and this is a mistake. This is not actually, okay, I just added some more feature. No. You actually give a big damage to the logs of our company, because maybe we are calling this function 1 million times, and you are printing this message so many times that I don't want to see. Okay, so this is not a small mistake actually. You filled our log database with those meaningless messages that we don't care. So, and the question is not asking that. And actually, it makes our program much slower. Like printing a message is actually slower. If you call it 1 million times, the program will be really slow. So, no, it's not some little mistake. But actually, from a company perspective, it might be a bigger mistake. So again, I didn't ask it, but the students lose time. They enrich the question in their mind. No. Just implement what it is asked, okay?